let's start now looking at our credit score. Now, a credit score is an incredibly personal thing. And whatever anybody else tells you, and particularly taxi drivers, they know a lot about credit scoring, the taxi drivers, I've discovered. People will say to me and to you, oh, don't do that, don't borrow that money on that credit card because it will destroy your credit score. And I always think to myself, how do you know? Have you been looking at my private files? Because your credit score is an incredibly personal thing. Because your credit score is generated from your history, what you got up to when you were a student, how much money you've borrowed in the last 30 years, you know, what your partner does, what your husband or wife has been doing, what you earn, all kinds of things impact your credit score. So no one credit score is ever impacted in exactly the same way with exactly the same action. So, for example, if you are already a property investor and you already have 50 mortgages on your credit report, because some people will do, no names mentioned, but some people might have that many mortgages sitting on their credit file. Well, if you've got 50 mortgages already and you take out one more, your credit score is going to go up because the credit companies like people who are good with credit. If you have no mortgages at all and you suddenly apply for 5, your credit score is going to go down. Okay, so I can apply for 5 mortgages and my score will go up. Somebody else can apply for 5 mortgages and their score will go down. So credit scores are incredibly personal things. No two people in this room will have the same impact on their credit score based on the same financial transaction. So the idea is you have to watch your own credit score. And if people say to you, oh, that's going to impact your credit score, I'm afraid you do have to say, how would you know? Have you been looking in my cabinet? Have you been looking at my private stuff? Because they cannot possibly know. So credit scores are like babies. They're very personal, they're yours, and you've got to look after it, I'm afraid. That's the deal with babies, and the same with credit scoring. And unfortunately, most people in this country don't even know where theirs is. They've abandoned their baby by the roadside, and it gets trodden on, kicked, it gets mud splattered in it, you know, somebody kicks it and moves it down the grass verge. And that's the approach most people take with their credit score and their credit report. They don't know where it is and they don't know what's happening to it. All that I will tell them is that it's abandoned somewhere on a roadside, and it's just like all the exercises we've done so far. Nobody gives a hoot what happens to that credit score apart from one person, you. You are the only person that cares about that credit score, so it's up to you to look after it. Because people will go in and do credit checks and they'll damage the file and they'll corrupt something and they'll, you know, overwrite something and spill coffee on it. And they will muck it about. And unless you're checking it regularly, you won't know. So your credit score is very personal, and you need to find out where it is and what it looks like and how to look after it. So it's just like a baby. It's with you forever and it's your responsibility to look after it. So how can we look after it? Well, first of all, we need to turn detective because we need to find out where it is. Now, our credit file, it exists in the ether somewhere. It's on a roadside, just sitting there minding its own business. And any financial transaction that you do, any loan application, any mortgage payment, any credit card payment, any minimum payment you make on any loan, as soon as that transaction is done, a computer somewhere goes into your credit file, into your credit score, and goes wallop and writes some information on it. So every single day, your credit file is being accessed by loads of people that you don't know as they're posting data and information to it. So first and foremost, we need to find out where it lives and get responsibility for it. Now, there are lots of different agencies nowadays that will tell you what your credit file looks like, what your credit report looks like, what your credit score is. These are the three main ones, and I'm going to show you 2 out of 3 of mine in a second. Checkmyfile.com, that costs at the moment £7.99 a month. The www.equifax.com, that costs £7.50 a month, and the creditexpert.com costs a little bit more. Now, I've put there per month because as expecting wealth creators as you all are, you need to be having regular access to your credit file and your credit report in order to be financially free. So first of all, these are the 3 main areas where you can pick up your credit report and your credit score. So how many people actually do that on a regular basis? Probably about a quarter of the room, perhaps slightly less. So the other 3/4 of the room, you need to get your bums in gear at the end of the day. Now, let's have a look at a couple of mine. We'll start with checkmyfile.com, and the reason I've put up the front screen is actually there's 2 really useful pieces of information on the home page of the website. First of all, there is a confirmation down here that checking your credit report with them will not affect your credit history or your credit score. Because a lot of people think purely by checking their credit file, they are somehow going to do some kind of damage to it. Well, that's not the case. Checking your credit history, your credit report, will not damage your credit score if it's done through an agency of this kind. So you are perfectly safe to check your credit report, your credit score every single day through one of these agencies. The other thing up here, it actually says Debt Advice Centre. Now, if you are in financial difficulty at all, please go on to all of these websites. You can see I haven't even logged in yet, so this is publicly available information. They will all give you guidance on debt advice, credit advice, how to